Katz and Cosby, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, KT, former Deputy National Security Advisor for President Trump, KT. So much going on today. President Trump meeting with Joseph Aoun, the president of Lebanon. This is a biggie.
The reason this is a biggie is because Lebanon, very much like Gaza, Lebanon has a government, a civilian government. It's elected by the people. But the government of Lebanon and the military of Lebanon don't have a lot of power. What they've done is they've had to be sort of subservient to Hezbollah, the Iranian military that's taken over much of Lebanon. And so by President Trump recognizing the president of Lebanon, getting an agreement, Lebanon saying it wants to work with the United States to defeat Hezbollah, that's a big deal. Prior to this, Hezbollah has had free reign over Lebanon, and the Lebanese officials and the government have been just too terrified and too intimidated to do much about it. But now that you have Lebanon joining this new alliance with the Gulf Arabs, Israel, the United States, against Hezbollah, against Hamas, and most particularly against Iran, it's a good step. Now, what does it really mean? Well, it won't mean a whole lot unless Hezbollah is decimated, unless Hezbollah is completely defeated. And I keep thinking back to, okay, so where's all this go? How does this end? You know, the United States, and we had tried to negotiate with Hamas in Gaza. We tried to work with Israel to destroy Hamas in Gaza. And it didn't really take until the Gulf Arab countries said, okay, Israel, okay, the United States, we're going to work with you to destroy Hamas, to get that cancer out of Gaza and away from the Palestinian people. And I think ultimately that's what has to happen in Lebanon. We have to work with our allies in the region to get rid of the cancer, which is Hezbollah, so that Lebanon can be free. And then ultimately the cancer that is the Iranian Revolution, the IRGC in Iran.
You know, by the way, the other big news, KT, is this Pickaxe Mountain that President Trump came out and a reporter asked him, you know, are you hearing this, that you got this intel that they moved centrifuges, nuclear centrifuges from one site to Pickaxe Mountain? It's this other site that wasn't hit in those earlier strikes. And he said, I know about that. We're going to hit that site, and there's nothing that Iran can do. He's like, I don't care if I'm telegraphing it. It shows how much superiority we have, but we will strike there. Where's this going?
I mean, this goes as we destroy Pickaxe Mountain, the same way we destroyed all of the other nuclear weapons facilities that Iran had. You know, we control the skies. We control what we destroy, what we don't destroy. They have no effective defense against anything the United States wants to do. And so while people say, well, there's no Iranian agreement, they haven't signed on the dotted line, well, we have gotten rid of their nuclear program. And if they try to rebuild it, whether it's in the Tance or whether it's in Pickaxe Mountain, fine, we just bomb it again. Let them spend their money on it. We will destroy whatever they try to do to get to a nuclear weapon. So a nuclear centrifuge, if you think of a salad spinner, you know, when you put a wet head of lettuce in a salad spinner, you keep spinning, and it spins off all the water. That's what a centrifuge is. And so when Iran says, oh, well, we only want our centrifuges for civilian use, that means they only want to spin the centrifuge, you know, to get most of the water out. What they really can do is keep spinning that centrifuge to get to the point where they have what's called highly enriched uranium, which is bomb-grade uranium.
And we also have former New York Governor George Pataki here.
Hi, Katie. Nice being on with you. Switching back to Lebanon again. One of the key changes, and one of the reasons I think the president of Lebanon seems to be far more willing to work actively with the U.S., is what happened in Syria, where Assad was overthrown, a new government is in. We had real doubts about the new leadership, but apparently that seems to be working well. How confident are you of the stability and the friendship of the new Syrian government?
You know, you're so right to point this out, Governor, because when the new Syrian leadership, so Assad leaves, and then it's kind of chaos. Nobody's sure who's in charge. And then the Saudis, Deputy Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, came to President Trump and said, look, there's this new guy in Syria. I think you should trust him. And Trump and everyone said, well, wait a minute. He was a terrorist before this. Why should we trust this guy? He's going to be just as bad as Assad. And the Saudi prince said, no, he is going to be a different kind of leader. Trust him, work with him. So Trump said, okay, I'll give this guy a chance. And it's really paid off. we have worked with the Syrian government to really eliminate a lot of the terrorists who were operating freely in Syria. And so the model, think of the model. Okay, so there was Gaza with Hamas. Hamas is more or less gone. We're now working to help build the Gaza Strip, help the Palestinians. We do the same thing in Syria, working with the Syrian government to help rebuild them, keep the terrorists out. And then now Lebanon, which is really the final piece of all of this, of the countries that surround Israel in that part of the middle part of the Middle East, working with them to say, okay, Hezbollah. Hezbollah was the crown jewel in the IRGC's assembly of terrorist proxies that they've used. So if we can do to Hezbollah in Lebanon, and as we have done in these other countries with Syria and with Gaza, that would be a really great thing. Why? Because it would leave Iran completely isolated and alone. No proxies, just Iran, where we can, at will, destroy targets in Iran.
Judge Weinberg.
KT, what about the Houthis in Yemen? What about that?
Yeah, I mean, so the Houthis are at another part of the region where they can fire on ships in the Red Sea. The Red Sea is not as important a maritime transit route as the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf is, number one. Number two, the Houthis survive because Iran pays them. Same way that Iran pays Hezbollah, provides its weapons, it provides its funding. But as Iran is getting increasingly stressed economically, they're cutting back their funding for these proxy groups. So what's going to happen in Yemen? I'm not as concerned. I mean, obviously one missile going at any maritime, whether it's an oil tanker, whether it's a commercial vessel of some other sort, that's not good. But I'm not as concerned about the Houthi threat as I am of figuring out how to finalize, finish the job, if you will, with Iran.
Well, now that's good to know. So what do you think, where do you see this going, I guess, in the next few days or few weeks? A lot of people, the sense is it's going to heighten.
Did Trump say or not say, well, there are some indications we might be talking?
Yeah, he says that, but then on the other hand, he says we're going to go strike Pickaxe Mountain. It's sort of, you hear both ends.
Well,
haven't you heard that story before?
In other words, he's going to keep hitting him. He's going to hit him every day. But he's willing to talk.
Yeah, and that's the amazing thing. That's a good point, because he still said we're open, but you know what? For now, the ceasefire's over, obviously.
The reason Trump is a good negotiator is that in most times, if you have a ceasefire, they break the ceasefire, then they break the ceasefire. But the minute that we're talking to countries, well, we stop the military action. Trump's using military action at the same time as he's having negotiations. I think what we're seeing, and this is to John's point, is that we are negotiating. We're negotiating with the civilian leadership of Iran, the parliament, the speaker of the parliament, the president, etc. We're negotiating with those guys. We're not negotiating with the IRGC. And those are the guys that really, I think they could probably control Iran, but less and less and less so as time goes on, because they're the military part. That's what's being destroyed. That's what's being defunded. And the more we can drive a wedge between these two groups, the better, with the ultimate idea. I mean, to me, the best solution to Iran is continue with the attacks against Iran's military capabilities, maybe start working on assassinating even more of their IRGC leadership, but having a slow-rolling Iranian coup where the civilian leadership that we're talking to increases their position in power, and the IRGC is less and less important over time.
You know, KT, I want to go back to something we had yesterday when we talked to Admiral Robert Harwood, who was Deputy CENTCOM. He brought up an interesting thing with all of us. He brought up about these bounties. He said they should start putting bounties on the head of all these IRGC, especially the leadership. And also, here's X amount reward if you give us where a major missile site is or a headquarters, or so either the U.S. or Israel could take it out. What do you think of that?
I mean, it's a great idea, and because the Iranian leadership is a fractured and divided leadership. That's not a strong leadership. And giving people incentives to turn in IRGC leaders or point to where the military sites are, first of all, I think we probably already know all of this stuff, or if we don't, Mossad, the Israeli intelligence service, does. I'm sure the Mossad knows exactly the top, let's say 500, 2,000 leaders of the IRGC are. They've stayed their hands so far and have not gone after them. But ultimately, how did we get rid of Hamas and Gaza? Because we killed all of the Hamas leadership, or Israel killed the Hamas leadership. I agree with the Admiral. I think we should be looking now at the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth tier, of the IRGC leadership until we find somebody who wants to do a deal.
I think this is a day-to-day process. You're not going to be able to predict if it's going to be 1 week or 2 weeks. It's a day-to-day process. Trump is determined to keep hitting him every day until they say, "Uncle," and that's all you can do. It's just keep, because you can't allow this. It looks like you can't. He was willing to make peace with them, but you can't allow these people because there's no peace with these people.
Yeah, and they're attacking American troops. I mean,
you've got to put a different regime in charge. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, KT, but the mullahs, they got to be out.
Mullah's got to be out. The IRGC has to be out, and then hopefully the civilian leadership that we are talking to will be the ones that we can do a deal with.
And they have to have, and the civilian leadership has to have a strong army.
Yeah, and by the way, KT, did you hear what the one of the, I think it's the foreign minister today, this was troubling, who's supposed to be one of the more rational ones, said, we can't wait for American troops to come. We're welcoming them, i.e., this is not, he's not exactly
But the Speaker of the Parliament's called for the assassination of Trump.
Exactly.
So, and he's the moderate, reasonable guy?
But he's the guy we're talking about. Look, these are not nice guys, okay? And Iran does not, it's crazy and crazier. So we're talking to the not quite as crazy guys as the IRGC. We're talking to the guys who may potentially decide they'd prefer to live and survive and take a, quote, poison chalice than the guys who are just itching for martyrdom. And they're going to all say a lot of stuff. But the reality is the people who are saying, we want to assassinate Trump, et cetera, those are the guys we're still talking to.
I know, which is shocking. I know. Listen, I give Trump a lot of credit. He's trying, he is trying every which way to make this work, which is extraordinary,
I think John's right, though. Day by day by day. Eventually, they'll be worn down.
There's no nuclear scientists in this thing. Right now, we got to wear them down, and that's it.
Yeah. KT, thank you very much. Really great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, KT.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
see you Saturday, KT.